Disclaimer. This AI-generated podcast is for general information only and does not constitute financial or legal advice. Please consult a qualified professional. Welcome to the Luxembourg Fundcast. Produced by Bertrand Mériot, a regulatory lawyer qualified as avocat à la cour in Luxembourg and Paris. This show brings you reliable insights on Luxembourg regulations sourced from curated official references. This episode is current as of 9 March 2026.
Thank you. It is really great to be here to get into this.
So let's set the stage for you today. In this deep dive, we are examining a critical intelligence briefing on intercompany loans and project financing, specifically for private infrastructure funds domiciled in Luxembourg.
Right, and the landscape here is moving quite fast.
It is. Our mission is to unpack the new regulatory classification and the governance perimeter around loan granting by these funds. We want to ensure you are perfectly equipped for these changes.
And what is genuinely fascinating about these new rules is not just the compliance aspect. It is how they fundamentally shift the operational timeline for deal teams.
Exactly. So to frame our discussion in a single sentence, the regulatory classification and governance perimeter around intercompany loan granting by alternative investment funds has fundamentally shifted, hard-coding detailed constraints into Luxembourg's manager framework via the newly adopted Bill 8628.
That is the core of it. We are seeing a framework that harmonizes minimum controls across the entire market.
And if we contextualize that for a moment, intercompany loans remain an absolutely standard tool for timing, cash waterfall, security packaging.
They are the lifeblood of infrastructure deals.
Right. But the evidence trail is now just as critical as the economics for both deal teams and governance functions. So let's get right into the practical takeaways. We have 3 essential points you need to know.
The first one is a structural change to documentation. It is the mandatory cover page disclosure.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, reserved alternative investment fund offering documents must contain a clearly visible statement right on the cover page. This statement explicitly confirms that the fund is not subject to supervision by a Luxembourg supervisory authority.
That visibility requirement makes a lot of sense. It ensures the investor knows exactly what perimeter they are in immediately.
Exactly. No burying it in the risk factors on page 50.
Our second takeaway is a matter of timing. The Alternative Investment Fund Manager's Directive 2 package, which we will refer to as the AIF MD2 package, is fully active.
It is no longer pending legislation.
Right. Luxembourg's Bill 8628 passed its first constitutional vote on the 12th of February 2026. And then the Council of State dispensed with the second vote on the 24th of February 2026.
Which brings us to the third and really the most structurally significant takeaway for operations, the introduction of hard constraints on loans.
And this is triggered by a specific metric, right?
Yes. Reaching a 50% net asset value threshold triggers strict operational caps on leverage and concentration. It completely changes how loans are granted and transferred.
That 50% threshold sounds like the fulcrum of this whole briefing. So let us unpack this core concept because it really is the engine of the new framework.
It is. We are dealing with 2 cumulative layers here.
But before we get into the layers, the regulatory texts use quite an alphabet soup of acronyms. Let us translate those into plain English first.
Absolutely a vital step. First, we will be discussing the Alternative Investment Fund, or AIF. You can think of an AIF as a bespoke investment vehicle designed for professional investors,
offering more strategic flexibility than standard retail funds,
provided it stays within specific regulatory guardrails. And within that AIF universe, we have the Reserved Alternative Investment Fund, known as the RAIF.
And an RAIF is essentially a structuring tool, correct?
Precisely. It allows funds to launch quickly by shifting the supervisory focus away from the product itself and onto a fully regulated manager.
And that manager is the AIFM.
Yes, the Alternative Investment Fund Manager. The AIFM acts as the licensed risk and portfolio manager, and they bear the ultimate regulatory responsibility.
We should probably also touch briefly on UCITES.
Right. The undertaking for collective investment in transferable securities. These represent highly regulated retail funds.
We only mention them because they come up later in the concentration limits.
Exactly. And finally, the net asset value, or NAV. That represents the total value of the fund's portfolio minus its liabilities. NAV is the foundational metric for measuring these new regulatory thresholds.
Okay, that clarity helps immensely. So armed with those definitions, what does this 2-layer framework actually look like?
Layer 1 is the foundation that is already in force. This is the standard RAIF governance perimeter.
Which requires what exactly?
It requires an authorized external AIFM and a depository. Plus, as we just mentioned, that mandatory cover page disclosure.
So that is the baseline architecture. Then we move to layer 2, driven by the new AIFMD2 package. This introduces the loan originating AIF.
Or in French, the FIA octroyant des prêts.
What specifically triggers a fund to fall under this new classification?
A fund is in scope if its strategy primarily grants loans, or if the granted loans reach at least 50% of its net asset value.
So it is either a strategic trigger or a quantitative trigger.
Exactly. And once that is triggered, hard caps apply immediately.
What kind of caps are we talking about for deal teams?
Leverage limits. For open-ended funds, leverage is capped at 175%. For closed-ended funds, it is capped at 300%.
300% sounds substantial, but with infrastructure project financing, you can bump up against that very quickly.
You certainly can, which means every intercompany loan must now be treated as a highly regulated workflow.
Let us look at the practical handling of this. Say a deal team comes to you. A sponsor wants speed for a massive project financing. How do they navigate this operational playbook?
Speed is fine, but the sequencing is absolutely rigid now. First, you lock the RIF perimeter.
Meaning confirm the external AIFM, the depository, and the cover page wording.
Right. Second, you run early classifications. You must test the 50% net asset value and strategy test before finalizing any term sheets.
Before finalizing the term sheets, that is a massive shift. So compliance has to be the engine, not the caboose.
Exactly. And there are some gold nuggets of actionable guidance we can pull from this briefing to help pros do their jobs smoothly.
Let us hear them.
First, always pre-test your headroom. Pre-test those leverage caps of 175 or 300% and your single borrower concentration limits before you lock in a deal.
That makes sense. What about conflicts of interest?
That's the second nugget. You need to run conflicts documentation at the AIFM level, not just the sponsor level. You have to build a supervisory quality evidence file proving pricing fairness and evaluating the investor impact.
And the third one relates to shareholder loans, which are everywhere in these structures.
The shareholder loan carve-out is crucial. If you rely on this, you must explicitly evidence that the notional value of such loans does not exceed 150% of the fund's capital.
You have to prove the math.
You absolutely have to prove the math.
So if a team follows this sequence, they build a highly defensible structure. But we know friction happens. Let us walk through where friction usually shows up based on the text and offer the precise fixes.
Good idea. Let us run through the failure modes.
Failure mode 1. Missing the exact mandatory cover page statement.
The fix is simple but strict. Ensure the RAIF offering document clearly states it is not subject to supervision by a Luxembourg supervisory authority.
Failure mode 2.
Yeah.
Drifting into loan originating AIF status by accident, just because asset valuations shifted over time.
The fix there is continuous modeling. You have to constantly model against the 50% net asset value trigger.
Failure mode 3. Breaching concentration caps.
Right. The fix is to ensure loans to single specified borrowers.
And those are financial undertakings, AIFs, and UCIs, correct?
Exactly. Ensure those loans do not exceed 20% of the fund's capital.
Failure mode 4 is a big one. Violating the ban on originate-to-transfer strategies.
The texts are clear. The fix is do not grant loans solely to transfer them. If transfers do occur organically, you must apply the strict 5% risk retention rule.
Meaning the fund has to retain 5% of the loan's notional value.
Correct. Failure mode 5 is misapplying the shareholder loan carve-out we just talked about.
The fix is pure documentation. Document exactly how the loan stays under that 150% cap condition.
Failure mode 6. Inadequate conflict documentation.
The fix here sits heavily on the manager.
It does. The AIFM must identify, manage, and explicitly disclose the nature of conflicts to investors before acting.
Failure mode 7. Ignoring supervisory reporting readiness. Treating it like a post-closing chore.
The fix is structural. Follow CSSF Circular 23844 for the technical reporting framework from day one.
Failure mode 8. Lacking a liquidity management system.
The fix is implementing systems to monitor liquidity risk for any fund that isn't an unleveraged closed-ended fund. You have to actively monitor it.
Failure mode 9. A disconnect in disclosures.
The fix is absolute alignment. Align the offering documents, disclose strategy and risk factors with your actual intercompany lending practices.
And finally, failure mode 10. Trying to retrofit compliance after the fact.
The ultimate trap. The fix is to run all hard checks, leverage, concentration, transfer prohibitions before signing the term sheet.
That is a brilliant list. It frames these obligations so constructively. So for the governance file itself, What is the checklist of what to review and retain?
4 crucial items. First, review offering documents for correct risk factors and that cover page visibility. Second, retain robust documentation proving the rationale behind shareholder loan carve-outs, specifically the 150% condition.
Third,
Review AIFM risk management systems to ensure all risks tied to the investment strategy are measured and monitored.
and the final checklist item.
Check that the security package aligns with Luxembourg's financial collateral law. That law remains the key legal tool for pledges in these structured financings.
It provides incredible certainty if used right. Let us quickly touch on the calendar before we wrap up. What are the upcoming dates based strictly on the proposed Commission report text?
The main date to circle is the 16th of April, 2026. That is the stated Luxembourg entry into force date.
And then we have a delay for some provisions.
Yes. The 16th of April, 2027 is the delayed entry into force for specified provisions, namely Articles 16 and 42, points 1 and 2.
And the final transition date.
The 16th of April, 2029. That marks the end of transitional treatment for certain requirements for funds constituted before the 15th of April, 2024.
Well, to tie this all together for you today, Luxembourg provides excellent financial collateral tools to build your investment vehicle, provided you remember to read the manual on loan granting constraints before turning the key.
It raises a fascinating question for the future of private infrastructure funds. What happens to deal velocity when regulatory governance is no longer just a post-closing checkbox, but the very engine that drives the transaction forward?
Follow on Spotify or subscribe to Rigore Media and Bertrand Mariux on YouTube. Connect with Bertrand on LinkedIn. Visit bertrandmario.com. All links are in the show notes. It was the Luxembourg Fundcast for you today.